healthcare that we do. So Business World is a 44-year-old publication. We are in our 45th year running. Originally, this publication was started by ABP, Anand Bazar Patrika, which is based out of Calcutta, but later on, Mr. Dr. Anurag Batra bought this publication. It was about 12 or 13 years ago when we took over this publication. And we turned it around because it was not a profitable publication for ABP. And we felt that, this was something which could be treated differently, and we became a profitable organization. We turned it around. And we are right now the market leader in the this particular segment. There used to be 3 magazines, which was Business India, Business Today, and Business World. Business India is no more there, but Business Today and Business World are the 2 publications that are there today. Almost like 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe a little more, is when we felt that we should start focusing on different niche areas, because in every industry there was so much that was happening that it could not be covered in one magazine, one business magazine. So we realized that it was time to go segment and go deeper into each industry area. So we are touching about 20 aspects today. We have 20 areas that we do, including education, we have police, legal, etc. But the top publications or the top areas for us are, one is Hotelier. BW Hotelier is India's most premium, kind of a community. And it is considered that our awards and our events in the hotel space are like the Oscars in India. It is, when we do an event, we do it once a year. But then when we do that event, every hotelier from across the world comes to attend that. And I'm talking of every hotelier means the promoters, they themselves come in. The second area, which is a most recent area, is healthcare. We started about 3 years ago, and it was kick-started by me, and we were not present in healthcare before that. And we are blessed that the industry has accepted us, what we are doing. I have a personal passion for this space. I used to be in content business with Google, YouTube, and in 2008, I felt that there was an opportunity for somebody to go make a difference in healthcare. And so I quit my corporate career and got into healthcare. We created a portal at that point in time. I was a little early in this industry. We got a lot of eyeballs. We got a lot of attention, but we were bleeding. We were not making money. So in 2017 is when I moved to South Africa to set up a primary healthcare venture for one of the investors of Medanta. And that is where I understood the power of data, the power of how the patient connect makes a difference. And when I came back, I started working on a project called Health FAQ. Health FAQ was nothing. It was my way of giving back to the society. It was a project where we were trying to solve the basic thing that when people are going online and they're accessing information, was there information that they could trust? And one of my understanding was the answer that you are searching for is only trusted if it comes from a doctor. In fact, Dr. Bhasin, if you remember, I had taken your interviews at BLK for that. This was in 2012. And people used to ask me one thing, that Harvinder, why are these doctors who otherwise have no time for their patients and they're struggling to spend time with their family are taking out time to be with you? And one thing that we realized was that apart from visibility, there was understanding of a brand that a doctor stands for, not from the perspective of marketing, but from the perspective of gaining the confidence that the patient feels that he's in the right hands. So the personal brand is not the marketing for them, it is for bringing the comfort to the patient that मैं सही जगह हूँ, and that is when the faith in the doctor gets established. And I think, in my personal perspective, that is when the treatment turns into healing. And so gradually, Dr. Batra, who's the chairman of Business World, saw what I was doing, and eventually I came on board and we launched BW Healthcare World. And today we are pretty much number one in terms of respect that we have among the top doctors. And we feel blessed that हम जो कर रहे हैं वो तो कर ही रहे हैं, but acceptance भी आ रही है healthcare industry से. So I think there's a lot of gratitude to the industry and people like you who trust us with topics which are as serious and debatable as the one we are discussing today. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's roundtable, which is on edible oils and health. It's a topic that is going to be focusing on understanding edible oils, and as we say that, separating the science from the sentiments, because people get वो जज्बाती हो जाते हैं when we are talking about कौन सा oil लेना है, घी लेना है या oil लेना है, दूध पीना है या नहीं पीना है, and especially when it comes to children. So which is why we said we're going to include pediatrics as well. This is a topic that is actually present in every kitchen, yet it is surrounded by myths, it is surrounded by confusion, and it is something that there is nothing which is concrete, but it is evolving with every year passing by, with so much of studies that are happening by both the private sector as well as by the government. So this is one area which is it is evolving with every year passing by. My name is Harbindar Narula. By now I have got introduced to everyone, and we are joined. I'm going to introduce everyone. So we have Dr. T.S. Kler. He's a Padma Bhushan awardee and the chairman of Cardiology at BLK-Max. Dr. Anirban Biswas, the Diabetologist. He's a consultant physician at Biswas Health and Minds Clinic. Is that right? And you're also visiting various hospitals as well. Dr. Sameer Gupta, he's a senior interventional cardiologist, group director of Metro Group of Hospitals and Heart Institutes. Dr. J.S. Bhasin, he's a senior director and the HOD Pediatrics at BLK-Max Super Speciality Hospital. Dr. Sonia Lal, who's a senior neurologist and the director of Metro Group of Hospitals. We have Dr. Ritika Samaddar, who's a regional head, South Zone Nutrition and Dietetics, Max Super Speciality Hospital. And we also have Dr. Raghavendra Rao. He's a director, Life Sciences, Central Council of Research for Yoga and Naturopathy. He's a part of the Ministry of Ayush and somebody who's studied various reports on edible oils per se. And I was in a discussion with him in Mumbai just a month ago, and I felt that his knowledge could be used on this particular topic. I'd like to kickstart with each one of you has a very important role in your own core specialty. So before we delve into this conversation around oils, let me try and understand from your core specialty's perspective, how important is the choice of edible oil in daily diets? So let me start with you, sir.
Basically, as a diabetologist and preventive cardiologist, our focus is to control the fat part of the body, because diabetes is associated with diabetic dyslipidemia. We all know that. And it is associated with fatty liver disease. So the whole thing is metabolic syndrome, which we call it, and it precipitates diabetes. So I feel that oil plays a very vital part in this, and because the life is getting more and more sedentary these days, so maybe our ancestors and our past generation, they were also using a lot of oil, and our cuisine is similar to their this deep frying and everything. Indian food is means we cook it for long duration of time in too much of oil. But the things which have really changed is the coming of new age fast foods. That is one thing which has increased childhood obesity, adult obesity, because eventually all are going to have some meals in the fast food chain at some point of time within say weekly. And we have subjects who are taking Coke, Pepsi, or some burgers or pizzas or something on a daily basis even. So this is one. And the second is sedentary lifestyle. We remember that when you were young, then we used to go to play in the playground every day, but I hardly see any child playing these days. So this has become a norm rather than we can say that it is now we have to accept that. And so based on that, we see a plethora of cases which are coming towards us in our clinic, that they have very high levels of fatty liver, they have central obesity, they have metabolic syndrome. And I feel that until and unless we abolish the root cause, the treatment part becomes better. So oil eventually, so that's then it makes us to focus more on now what they take as their diet, and can we do something about it.
I think, I would tend to differ with you that I find children are playing more. The only thing is that they're playing virtual games than in the outside. Dr. Rao, what would be your understanding of how important the oil is to your area? Because I know you are involved in yoga also.
Okay, it's a very good question, and this whole discussion started off from one particular statement by our Honorable Prime Minister, who said to reduce the amount of edible oil intake by 10%. And where did this data come from? It came from the Cochrane reviews, which was done and showed very clearly from all the meta-analysis studies. They showed a 17% reduction in coronary artery disease in patients who were able to reduce the edible oil percentage from 19% to 9%. This is a study which was based on the Cochrane review, and based on this statement was made. So let me just put the facts right here. Oils per se is not bad. They have good fatty acids in them. And these fatty acids are very, very useful for immune modulation and for metabolism, production of hormones and whatnot. Problem occurs when you reuse the oil, fry it again and again, which can create a lot of toxic compounds to be generated, acroleins and aldehydes, which can cause stiffening of the arteries. And it can also cause LDL to spike up. So, and it can cause inflammation, can cause metabolic syndrome, diabetes and whatnot, heart rate disease and whatnot. So the problem lies in how we do the cooking and which oils we are using for what kind of cooking. So here people have a notion that coconut oil is bad, mustard oil is bad. It is not so. Studies have shown that coconut oil is as good as sunflower oil. It doesn't increase the amount of CHD or LDL spike even after 2 years. The reason being they have short chain fatty acids, which are very, very useful. Okay, the short chain fatty acids are very, very useful. Only 3 oils have short chain fatty acids. The palm kernel oil is very useful, olive oil and coconut oil. Now, when you talk about palm oil, people say that it's very, very bad. The palm kernel oil is very good. The red palm or the raw palm, as well as the refined palm oil, these two are bad because these two have more of MUFA, monounsaturated fatty acids. Okay, they don't have short chain fatty acids. So that is again a problem there. So we need to understand what kind of oil we are using, what is the smoking temperature of this oil, how much you can fry it, how much you can, what not to fry. Like for example, you should not fry the olive oil. You should not fry the avocado oil. You cannot fry the canola oil because they have low smoking points. You fry them, you cause toxins to be formed.
Right.
So the way you cook the oil, the way you use the oil is also very important. And adulteration of oil is again a big problem. Reuse of oil is also a big problem. When you start reusing the oil, more trans fats are formed and that can cause coronary artery disease. And people like to eat out in restaurants and have street food where they reuse the oil.
Absolutely. Dr. Sonia Lal.
Thank you for having me. So, of course, oil, again, I think it's not bad. I mean, I think nothing is bad when it's in moderation, and oil is required at a certain level. But the problem nowadays is, let's say let's take neurology. How is oil important for us? It's important for brain health. There are certain components of oil. We talk about omega all the time. We talk about all these terms. There are certain components like, even a vitamin E that is required for the cognition, that is required for brain health. But the problem, I think, what everybody's already saying is that it's not about what we are eating. It's not about our Indian diet that we are following anymore. We have completely construed a very different kind of a diet, which we are calling an Indian diet, right? Like if we go to the roots, our diet is not bad. We were using mustard oil, which is actually very good for health. We're using groundnut oil, which is not bad. But nowadays, the diet is so focused on processed food. And everybody's looking for that quick thing of, let me just eat a packet of chips. And kids are having their fruities or kids are having their, biscuits. Everything is full of all these palm oils or trans fats or whatever it is that they are taking, which definitely is increasing the risk. We know for a fact that from a cognitive standpoint, it does impact. We know for a fact that this increases the chance of atherosclerosis in the arteries, which can later on lead to stroke. The biggest risk is it's like a circle. It leads to obesity that further increases, and this vicious cycle kind of continues. Activities have gone down, definitely, and I think it will continue to get worse the way AI is coming in, and I think people, even the little finger that they move to write will not now be used anymore, right? So I think things are just going from bad to worse, but everything in moderation is fine. When it comes to oil, I think we all will have to, eventually, I think that will be the crux, is that we all have to choose the right oils, use it in the right way, and we have to use a variation. We also have to teach our kids to make the right choices when it comes to, especially when it comes to brain health. The elderly people also need oils in the right capacity. Nowadays, dementia, there's so much talk about dementia. There's so much talk about MCT. Should we do these high fat coconut oils? What is about this? What is this keto diet? Does it help memory issues? So there's a lot of discussions that happen around oil. So I think everything needs to be in moderation. And I think I won't reiterate the same facts. I think it comes down to the same thing. But eventually, making the right choices, knowing what to take, it is important. I think oil is not bad. It's just a matter of making the right choices, and it will be.
Since we were talking about development of brain and the brain health, etc., so let me come to you, because you're dealing with children, and certain oils considered as being not so good, but typically have shown, favorable effects in brain health. So, what is the importance of edible oils in your area?
Being the only pediatrician here, they see the mature adults who already have these metabolic or lifestyle diseases or non-communicable diseases. I deal with the population where the seeds are sown. Yes. They see the live, full-grown adults. And we have a dietitian here. I think oils are an excellent part of our diet. I don't know any household where any meal is made without oil. And this is, we are talking about visible oil. Besides that, almost every food has some invisible oil. That's almost 10% of our average Indian diet comes from invisible oil, even if you don't add anything. As far as children are concerned, this is the best way of increasing the calorie intake. And they need at least 30% of their total intake of energy from fats. Now, which fat is good, which is not good, we will come to it over the discussion. But as far as pediatrics is concerned, I think oils are an excellent way of cooking, adding taste, flavor, because these are the things you need to add to the food so that you can make the child eat. The problem is when you eat the wrong oil or the wrong amount and your lifestyle changes, but the seed is sown right at birth. The family habits, they are incorporated or the child catches on to them. Dr. Sonia was talking about brain. So from at birth, only about 50% of the brain is there. In the next 2 years, it goes up to 90%. So these first 2 years are very important as far as fats is concerned. And cholesterol is a very important component of brain growth. So there's no restriction as far as fats, especially talk about saturated fats as far as kids go. We don't have any restrictions about whole full cream meals, milk and all, dairy products. The adults recommend skimmed milk. We give full cream milk. We want the baby to get that cholesterol. But the habits, what we have found, our research has shown that if the protein content is very high in the diets, in the children, in the initial months of growth, then they develop more metabolic disorders or lifestyle disorders later in life. It is the protein content which affects the metabolic disorders later on in life. Fat is very important for brain growth, so no restriction as far as cholesterol in children is concerned. Habits, food habits, we pamper our children because, as you were mentioning, there is less activity because the parents are more busy. No one is satisfied with one salary. They want a second, both the parents working, then you have second hustles or second, third jobs, fourth jobs. You want more and more. Where you will spend it, I don't know. And everyone says they're saving it for the kids. But the kids, you're giving something to them on a platter. They don't realize the value of what you're giving to them. What you're missing out is you're not inculcating the right food habits, the right physical activity, the right behaviors. So that is all going to affect the metabolic disorders or non-communicable disorders in adult life, which they are facing. And that age, correcting is very difficult. You have to correct right in the childhood.
What age is your guideline for that? You deal with 18 years or up to pediatrics is up to 18 now?
We deal up to 18 years. What I was talking was about the initial 2 years. We want the brain
First
growth.
2 years.
First 2 years.
That's
That is the brain growth is going on. There is no restriction as far as full cream or cholesterol rich or desi ghee or butter. There's no restriction. In fact, we want them to have it.
So, you know, what I also kind of take away from what you just said, that it may not be just the oil, the food itself that is being cooked in the oil could also not be something which is the right food.
There was a lot of discussion about the way it is cooked. That is very
Correct,
important.
correct.
And the oil and the adulteration. I think we'll all discuss that
Yeah.
in the due course of time. I don't want to finish it.
Of course. No, we've got a long way to go, sir. This is just the beginning. Dr. Sameer, what is the role of oil in the field of cardiology?
As a cardiologist, and Dr. Kler would also agree with me, hopefully he'll agree with me, every patient who comes to my OPD, as he's leaving, his last question, you know, they all get these questions with you on a piece of paper. I have this pain, I have that headache, I have my leg pain. What do I eat? That is the number one question 100% of patients ask you when they come for a follow-up appointment or at the time of discharge. What do I eat, doctor? Tell me what I should eat. And 90% of them will ask you one question, ghee. Can I eat ghee? Can I have makhan? मैं सूखी रोटी खा रहा हूँ 2 हफ्ते से, जब से मेरी एंजियोप्लास्टी हुई है, जब से हार्ट अटैक आया है. That's the standard question they all ask you, right? So I think diet, like you said initially when you were doing the introductions, that oil and diet is something we are very passionate about. So diet definitely plays a very important role for when you risk stratification of patients, for preventing coronary artery disease, and for preventing the second heart attack or the third heart attack as well. The most of the general consensus across guidelines across the world, whether it is the American Heart Association, whether it's the WHO, or even for that matter the Indian guidelines, it's pretty clear that saturated fats have to be reduced, right? And when we say saturated fat, yes, butter comes in it, ghee comes in it, but we also have to remember that the entire caloric intake also plays a very important role, right? Fats should be 25% of your general diet. Rest is carbohydrates and proteins. But those 25% fats get consumed very fast. You know, you can't put 3 butter toasts and say this is healthy for me, right? It's a because fat content is 9 calories per gram as compared to carbohydrates and proteins. So the quantity that you take is very important, and generally we end up replacing our carbohydrate content or usually our protein content, because Indians, and you know, Ritika is coming after me, so she can talk about this as well. Indians in general don't have that much protein in their diet, so we replace our protein calorie intake with primarily fats and fried food and stuff like that, and that adds up, and you get obesity, you get a whole host of other problems. So I think it's a very complex topic, it's a very nuanced topic, and I'm glad that we are having this discussion, and over the next some time we'll all learn a lot as we go.
Dr. Ritika, I can't have the same question to you because, I can't ask you the importance of edible oils in your field because aapka to kaam hi yahi hai. So let me tweak the question a little bit for you, that what are the 2 or 3 misconceptions that we have about edible oils? Because, whatever we deal with, whether it is cardiology, whether we deal with diabetics, or we deal with neurology or children, the first question that people are asking is कि oil खाना चाहिए, घी खाना चाहिए, क्या oil खराब है? So what are the 2-3 misconceptions about edible oils that we must know?
So thank you so much, and it's nice to know that as doctors we are really speaking actually the facts, which is very important, because I think you are the people who are actually meeting the patients all the time, and of course they are of course with us also. So yes, oil is of course very integral part. So first thing first, that it is a very integral part of a healthy balanced diet, and I think somebody already highlighted over here. It has to be about 25 to 30% of the calories, irrespective of whatever disease you are in, whether it's a cardiac disease or it is a metabolic syndrome. Certain amount of the diet has to come from the calories, and that is the fat calories. The second question is of course the quality of the fat, and that is what we are all debating over here, and that's the reason why when the quality drops, then whether it's a cardiac problem or it's a neurological problem, or even babies getting into metabolic syndrome, and that's the reason for it, and not the quantity of the fat. Coming to the misconception, I think depending, again, it also varies from people to people depending upon the disease. So probably if a patient with a heart attack would come, he would say कि oil से heart attack होता है, या oil बिल्कुल नहीं लेना चाहिए. So the day somebody's had a angioplasty, he'll go oil free, and before that he was probably having all the ghee, makhan and all. So that's of course, and you cut down on the fat, you will reduce weight. So that is another a misconception which people have, that the moment I go on a zero fat, I will cut down on my weight, which on the contrary goes the other way around, because the moment you're replacing your fats with the carbohydrates, more so in a country like us, you actually tend to put on weight. So we have to actually tell them that you have to have, so that's how these ketogenic diets and all work wonders, because the concept is that you have more of fats. So that's one of the things. The second is of course the quality, as rightly said, ghee. So again, the concept is that ghee, again, there is one section which believes that ghee is completely bad, which of course is not the truth. We really need to have certain amount of ghee, which is about 7 to 10% of the saturated fat. Again, the concept is it is not ghee, it is saturated fat. So if somebody is having butter, somebody is having ghee, or somebody is having, for that matter, palm oil also, which is almost about 50 to 80% of saturated fat, even somebody is having a full cream milk, they are also getting the saturated fat. The concept is not about ghee being good or bad. The concept is how much of the saturated fat vis-a-vis your PUFAs and MUFA, or the unsaturated fat. So that's one concept which of course people are not able to understand, and that's why with the media and all coming in, ghee suddenly becomes very good and ghee suddenly becomes very bad. So we have to go the middle path, and we have to look into the saturated fat. The other is of course also there are very essential omega-3, for that matter. There are certain kinds of fats which the body does not produce it, and you have to take it from the diet. And that is where a lot of talk about the MUFA, the omega-3 fatty acids, which of course have a direct impact on diabetes, as well as on child health, as well as on neurology. Omega-3 plays a very important role. And remember, we only get it from the oil which we are consuming, or of course the nuts and seeds. So oil, the first line is that oil is an integral part. We cannot survive without oil. But yes, quantity is also important in a country like us, because people need to understand the figures, otherwise they go overboard and then land up with different problems. And third is of course having the right quality of oil, which is very important. And I think over the period of time we've learned that rather than talking about the calories and the quantity, we should now talk in terms of the quality, which is more important.
Absolutely. I think, even when we were talking about olive oil, I think somebody brought up, there are different kinds of olive oil which is there. So which one do you use is important. So instead of saying that ye oil kharab hai, kis tarike se oil use hua hai, that is what it is. So let me now come to you, because we are 6 down. So
So anyway, I think most of the things these expert people have told you, and I totally agree with that. There is no doubt in my mind that diet is the most important thing in medicine. But unfortunately, it is not given that weightage. I tell you why. A patient comes to cardiologist, me and Dr. Gupta. So we history taking this, that, angiogram, angioplasty. We spend hardly any time for diet. The reason for that is that first of all, we are not focused. Secondly, we ourselves don't know how to advise them. That's the reality. Because we may be knowing theoretically, pufa, tupa, the patient doesn't know pufa, tupa. Patient has to be told practical terms, कि क्या करना है. And in my opinion, like the mankind, basically, if you say the mankind, there are two basic instincts in any living organism. the most important, that is food, because उसके बिना जी नहीं सकते. So food is very, very, very important. Our second instinct is sex. That's a procreation by nature. I think one can live without sex, but one can't live without food. It's not possible. So food remains the most important thing, but it in medical field, in allopathy medicine, at least I don't know about the homeopathy and other things, because they, perhaps I have a feeling that they give more stress. But in allopathy, we don't give that much of time and importance to the. So my concept will be, for example, if there's a cardiology unit, I have to be a cardiology nutritionist or dietitian in the team, who will go with me for rounds, who will be available in the OPD to give them the right advice. And the right advice for patients is not to the man. That's another mistake. It has to be the housewife जो खाना बनाती है. Either जो खाना बनाती है, or even if she has a servant at home, the lady has to be told, because she the monitor in the house. मेरे को नहीं पता क्या food. I don't know what oils are being used in my house, being a cardiologist. So that's the fundamental mistakes we do, that we remain theoretical. So that's one thing. The second thing is that when we talk about these edible oils, basically, or diet in general, it is not only that you have this calorie 30% and 40% and this percent and that percent. We have to take many things into consideration. The person, his personality, his weight, how much activity he has. For example, there's a laborer who's crushing the stones on the road. I'll tell to desi ki roz kha, dawa ke kha, because his consumption is fantastic. On the other hand, white collar people, even small amount is. So we have to take all those things into consideration. Even the dietitian does not, they don't ask by the way. I've never seen any dietitian asking the patient के सुबह से शाम तक बताओ आप करते क्या हो. कभी नहीं पूछती वो टिक 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 ऐसे करती हैं, which is meaningless to my mind. So there's another few things which the thing is that, for example, the recommendation by a good dietitian like you is that we should consume 0.5 kilogram of edible oil per month. The Indian Council of Medical Research says the maximum should be 1 kilogram. That means 12 kilograms in a year. But in India, it is 24 kilograms by the. And in India, from 2001, it used to be 8 grams per individual per year. It has gone to 24. So with the result, what has happened, that the consumption of the edible oils from 11 million tons has gone to 26 million tons. And we are able to produce only 55 to 60% in India. The rest is being imported. And Modi ji is right, because Modi ji knows how much money is going for the foreign exchange to bring those. That's why they are stressing from the other way point, and that's very, very valid. So when we talk about edible oils recommendations, first of all, we need to understand one are saturated fatty acids. Even in saturated fatty acid, there are short chain, there are medium chain, there are long chain. Now the people which mostly don't know that short chain and medium chain, they don't increase cholesterol. They are safe. It's only long chain. So how much is the composition of that fatty acid? How much is long chain? How much medium chain? That practically nobody knows. At least I don't look into that. The dabba ke usme kya hai. So those things should be known. The another thing is that talk about unsaturated fatty acids, whether it is monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. Here also there are something called stability of any oil. Stability means that when you cook, deep frying, how much oxidation occurs, how much hydrogenation occurs. So the stable oils are relatively safer than which are not stable oils. For example, ghee is a stable oil. Even palm oil is a stable oil. Mustard is a stable oil. They don't change. In the oxidation occurs less in these. There are many these polyunsaturated where the oxidation occurs more. In fact, they may be called healthy, but they become unhealthy because the way we cook the food. Then the question is that it also matters whether it's a light frying, whether it is medium frying, or there is a deep frying. Deep frying is one thing where oil is really goes to 270 degrees Celsius, and there's more chance of hydrogenation in these oils. So one thing I think which we should tell everybody is that once you have used that oil in the home, the remnant of that oil should never be reused, which I don't know how many families do, because you should throw that away because that has become not good. And all these halwais, by the way, all the market, they use again and again and again and again. And there are some studies to show that how bad is the oil used 2 or 3 times, which we don't have control. For the government of India doesn't have control how many times they use. It's absolutely harmful, those things. Now, few things more. You know, out of 5-6 methods of making food, for example, dry heat came first. That is called so-called, we have roasting. Boiling is another, like we, boil, for example, egg. We just boil. And in Western civilization, they boil broccoli and they would put salt and eat away. So boiling is the most healthy way because you are not adding anything at all. Then there is a oil. Oil, I think using oil in cooking in India is the most common way of making food. Microwave, usually people don't make food, they just heat it. And now there's a new thing called air fry. Air fry uses, dry air. But even in air fry, you can make, you can do only few things like fish or chicken or even broccoli. But you can't make dal in, that things. So air fry, to my mind, I think is relatively better as compared to other modalities. So I think all those things have to be understood. But if I'm not wrong, I think Ritika will be able to correct me. The recommendation is that if you use 1 unit of saturated oil, you should use 0.8 to 1 unsaturated oil. Yeah, they say 0.8 to 1, but that's a recommendation. Yeah. Then you have, the question of polyunsaturated versus mono. Mono should be more, around 60%. Yeah. So mono should be more than the saturated because monos are more stable. They are more stable. Then you come to the question of omega 6 and omega 3. Both are needed for the body, but omega 6 quantity should be more. I think the recommendation is 5 to 10 times more than omega 3. Omega 3 should be more because that decreases inflammation in the body. So I think overall, first of all, to my mind, as Raghavendra said, that not only general public, even doctors have no idea about edible oils. What to talk of general public? Doctors को नहीं पता, cardiologist नहीं पता by the way. If I have to, I think I need to know a subject properly, I tell them कि मेरा lecture रख दो उसमें. Like even in CSI, then I read it. Then you know more. So few things I just came to know yesterday. So actually, we don't have the knowledge. First of all, we have to have the knowledge. But one thing is very clear that in Indian cooking, the quantity of oil, edible oil used is much more than required. It has to be decreased. There's no doubt about it. Health-wise, even countries, finances-wise, there's absolutely no doubt about it. Like, for example, up to 2 years, I totally agree with Bhasin. That's what my wife is a neonatologist, by the way. And after that, it becomes a problem in cities and richer people. Bacha ice cream khai ja raha hai. You have to make some standards. There was a survey 10 years back, I think in Delhi schools, 33% children were obese. Obese means 30 BMI. Not overweight, 30% were obese. So we have to know where the society is going. See, basically what has happened is, to my mind, that hypertension, diabetes, and coronary artery disease, 3 major killers in India today, actually they are purely lifestyle diseases. See, if you compare what your grandfather used to do. The whole day this guy was walking or he was mechanically doing things. So we don't walk, we have cars, we have everything the remote control. So lifestyle has changed. Actually, that is why these even small amount of ghee is going to bite you, which were very healthy for 50 years back. So those are the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. See,
These habits have to be inculcated in the childhood.
Right.
And the parents these days, they don't have the time. Parents don't have the time to inculcate habits. They themselves have a faulty lifestyle. They don't have any time to spend with the child to go to the playground, and there is hardly any playground even if you want to take them to some place. Then this eating habits, you find the whole family is obese, but they'll bring the child to you, इसको समझा दो, इसको कह दो ये आज से चॉकलेट नहीं मांगेगा. अरे भाई मैं 1 मिनट में मना कर दूंगा, 24 घंटे तुम्हारे साथ है, तुम खा रहे हो, इसको नहीं दोगे.
No, the thing is,
So the
as far as the health is concerned, very few people realize, very few people, even in the Western world, by the way, at the age of 10 or 15, when you are a child, that health is very important. That time, I didn't realize that time. So we have to tell our children who go to school curriculum should inculcate, they should really bombard their brain to tell everything is health. So I tell people that there are 3 things important in life. Number 1 is health, number 2 is health, and number 3 is health. And actually nothing else is important, including money, including your wife or even your girlfriend. And I give reason. Let's say you have the most beautiful girlfriend in the world. बहुत अच्छी है, मॉडल है, लेकिन आपको सांस चढ़ रहा है, क्या करोगे? क्या करोगे ना गर्लफ्रेंड का? सो मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि अल्टीमेटली क्या है, जब तक फैमिली में ये ठीक था बसीन, जब फैमिली नहीं सिखाती, फैमिली जब पेरेंट्स नहीं करते अपनी हेल्थ, वो बच्चे को बोलेंगे जी इसको बता दो, क्या कैसे बताएंगे? In India, typically now what is happening, particularly in so-called newly rich society, what is happening? They want to earn money, and then they fall sick. They have a myocardial infarction. Then they will spend money to Max or Fortis or Medanta. So that is what is happening in the world.
great, sir. I mean, but people like you, the way you manage your lifestyle. I don't know how many kilometers do you cycle every day?
See, I am very clear. I get 5 o'clock in the morning. Either I have to cycle 30 kilometers or I have to walk 10 kilometers. I have to do something like that. I see my minimum target is 12,500 steps. That's minimum. So I do that. I take stairs. I am the whole day walking. I tell you one thing, Dr. Gupta will agree, in cardiology, I just tell them one thing, कि बैठना नहीं भैया आपने, बैठना बंद कर दो, चलते रहो, इधर उधर कुछ ना कुछ करते रहो. That is very, very useful.
If I can add one thing, nowadays the biggest problem is maybe due to social media, whatever it is, instant gratification is what people are looking for. किसी को मेहनत नहीं करनी है. I am a headache specialist, and a lot of our headaches can be managed just with lifestyle, and medicines play a role, but it's like 50 to 60%. But believe you me, everybody wants a quick fix. For everything, everybody wants a quick fix. They want to lose weight also. Now with Manjaro and all coming in, God knows what's going to happen. I'm sure you're hearing all about it all the time, but yeah, right? But the problem is, it's great, but it's not a replacement for lifestyle. So this quick fix that is happening, I think we really have to change the mindset. And I agree with you. I mean, we have a young, almost 4-year-old son. So we were listening to you as you were saying that.
I have a 7-month-old grandchild, so I was listening to him all. though my wife is a neurologist.
Thank you.
So my wife is a
So that's what I'm saying. It is very important. We inculcate the right habits. We are always on the phone. We tell the child कि phone अच्छा नहीं है. We have soft drinks. We tell them it is not good for you. We reward them with a chocolate. Then we tell them it is not good for you. We take them out for a pizza party. And then we tell them doctor has said नहीं खानी है. So we are doing just the opposite. So the habits have to come from the family. It is very difficult just disciplining the child. And even among the adults, you have obese and they'll come to you कि कुछ खाने के लिए दे दो जिससे ठीक हो जाए. भाई मोटापा कम करने के लिए भी खाने के लिए कुछ चाहिए. लाइफस्टाइल चेंजेस नहीं करेंगे, कुछ खाने के लिए बता दो कि भाई सैर कर ले डॉक्टर साहब जिस तरह कह रहे हैं. You should walk, you should cycle, you should not sit. Change your habits. But कुछ खाने की कुछ तो दे दो, खाने के लिए क्या करना है?
I don't see television at all, zero. And I don't know how many years मैं television देखता नहीं. It's all, to my mind, is all nonsense. I see Times of India just 7 minutes in the morning. I know what is happening in the world. I tell you, if people spend time which is spent on WhatsApp, just forwarding useless messages, वो time को exercise कर लें, there can be a lot good.
Dr. Ritika, let me come to you because, once we are understanding that edible oil definitely plays a very, very important role, we've been hearing about saturated fat, various other terms that were there. There's a good fat and there is a bad fat, right? And what I want to understand from you is, can you, for the layman, explain what a good fat is, what a bad fat is? And also, when we are looking at the labels, हम जब लेबल पढ़ते हैं तो वी आर लुकिंग एट द इंग्रेडिएंट्स, ऑयल है या नहीं है, कौन सा ऑयल है कौन सा नहीं है, बट वो ऑयल कैसे यूज़ हुआ है, कहाँ यूज़ हुआ है, फूड इटसेल्फ में क्या है, वो वी आर नॉट एजुकेटेड एनफ टू रीड द लेबल रियली वेल. सो व्हाट वुड बी योर ओपिनियन एक्सप्लेनिंग गुड फैट एंड बैड फैट, एंड व्हाट इज इट दैट वी शुड बी लुकिंग फॉर व्हेन वी रीड अ लेबल?
Right. So we call them the good, bad, and ugly, right? You missed out on the ugly.
Okay, I
so
missed
ugly is the trans fat, right? So there's nothing good about it, and that's the worst fat. So good is, of course, we talked about the poly and the MUFA, which of course is all the refined oils. But now I think gradually over a period of time, what is going to happen is that in the good, which we have the polyunsaturated fat, jo hamara soya bean and sunflower and all, that will also come into the bad oils, because that, as has been discussed, that the moment you heat that, it is not stable and it is getting oxidized. So we have to see what is going inside our body. So ideally all these so-called good fats also will over a period of time come into the bad category, for the simple reason because they're not stable. So, and of course the most important, as we were discussing, is the ugly, the trans fats, which is very, very, so I think for this layman to understand, I think the best thing to understand is कि जब भी आप कोई packaged food लेते हो, the amount of fat, there will be some amount of trans fat, and it is always mentioned. So again, according to the guidelines, the WHO or our own ICMR guidelines, it says not more than 1 to 2% of the trans fat. But अगर आप कोई भी packaged chips लोगे या कुछ लोगे तो उसमें trans fat लिखा होता है. So ideally as a layman, if you're able to read that, you should be able to understand that how much is the trans fat. So one, trans fat is bad, and there's no good and bad in that. It is the ugly. So the moment you see trans fat, you should completely go off it. Coming to the polyunsaturated and the MUFA, which of course a lot of discussions are happening. So there are certain oils which we talked about, like ghee and all, which of course can withstand more. So on the contrary, लोग ये सोचते हैं कि जब हम घी को उबालते हैं तो वो खराब हो जाता है, जल जाता है. So it has a higher oxidation, so it doesn't get oxidized. So while you're doing it, it is much better. Similarly, on the other hand, when we are using things like soya bean and all, it is the moment you're frying it or using it at a high temperature, especially in the cooking industry, it will get completely rancid. So what you're taking is completely bad. So therefore, for a common man, one, of course, it is important to see what is the percentage. So ideally, in fact, now with labeling, and FSSAI is really working hard to come out with the green and the orange and all. And I was also involved with them to a great extent. But I think for the common man, just to pick up the package and read the label also is a long task, because nobody reads the labels, at least in our country. So even for them to pick up the label, so now they're coming with the thing that rather than even writing the calories and the proteins, they would just say that in the thing, whether it's a green food, that means it is low calorie, high protein, it is low fat, high protein, it is complex carbs. So we are coming with various permutations and combinations so that it's much easier. So one, reading label, I think for the common man becomes very important, especially you're buying when you're eating food from outside. And whatever said and done, though of course I know in today's nuclear family, it's easier said than done कि सब कुछ घर में बनाओ और बाहर से पैकेट मत लाओ and all. But at the end of the day, I think we should now come to a consensus to say that when you're eating food from outside, even when it says low fat and a very high healthy snack, remember the fat is getting replaced by a carbohydrate, which is equally bad or even worse. So when you're eating a packet packaged food, I think as layman you have to understand that this is not healthy and you should look at the label before taking it and probably restrict the quantity. And second, of course, reading the label is something I think we are going away with it. Take a long time to go, but again, I think FSSAI and all are working a lot on reading labels.
Is there any oil which has got no trans fat?
So, see, again, when you're heating the oil, so trans fat by itself is not present. It is converted into trans fat while in the processing of food, right?
Trans fat is
So,
partially hydrogenated.
hydrogenated. It's a
Partially hydrogenated oils
oil.
are trans fats.
Yeah.
Right.
As sir mentioned, when you heat it, when you use it for frying and you reuse it, that is the time trans fats are generated. So reusing is the most harmful thing you can do during cooking.
So that's exactly where I wanted to understand that, oil per se does not have trans fat. It is the wrong use of oil which is creating. So
Trans
the
fats.
high temperatures, overheating of oil is what creates trans fat. Dr. Sameer, let me come to you. I mean, when you have your patients coming in and you said that, most of them ask कि oil नहीं लगाया, मक्खन खा सकते हैं, नहीं खा सकते, घी खा सकते, नहीं खा सकते. Do you think when you tell them what to do, what not to do, do they understand? Do they understand how to read the label? Do they understand how they should be picking up stuff? या फिर वो सुनते हैं लेकिन समझते नहीं हैं and the problem remains?
So I think what you've talked about is a very important point. So like Dr. Kler said, in our hospital we have a dietitian, and the dietitian, as the patient is leaving, gives them a sample diet chart, right, for a week. Most of the patients by the time they, and it's a very strict diet chart, right? Like you have 2 rotis and no ghee and no masala, etc. And by the time when they come for the 2-week follow-up appointment, most of them have lost at least 1, if not 2 or 3 kilos, right? And they're feeling much better. They're like, you see, my belt has gotten loose, etc. And then they always complain. They said, why am I losing weight? I said, because you're eating right. And that is a big important part to play. This
Very good patients. नहीं तो ज़्यादातर पेशेंट तो ये पूछते हैं, ये खाना खाने के पहले खाना है कि खाना खाने के बाद में खाना है?
सर हार्ट अटैक हो गया ना, तो वो
नहीं, जो डाइट बताई है ये बिफोर द मील्स है, आफ्टर द मील्स.
So that happens for the first 2 weeks. At the 1-year mark, they are back to where they started. At the 1-year mark, they are usually back to where they started. And that is just what I see in practice, right? And as they start following the diet for the 2 weeks, some of them have followed for the first 1 or 2 months till the fear of the recent MI is there. The insulin level or the sugars start getting better, the blood pressure medicines start coming down, they start feeling better overall, and then they usually go back to their own thing. What I tell my patients is, as a rule of thumb, without, like Dr. Kler said, we have to do something which is simple. Usually what I tell them is stay away from processed foods, right? That is the most important thing. That rusk you are having with your tea, that biscuit you are having with your tea is not to be had, right? Try and replace that with something else. Maybe have murmura, plain murmura, or, roasted murmura if you want to have something. That piece of mithai that you are having because you're a diabetic and you want phiki chai, but you replace that with a piece of mithai, that is not having any benefit either. So, and increase the quantity of fruits and vegetables and keep it seasonal. Keep it seasonal. Whatever is in season, usually you should be able to get that easily, and it's not that expensive as compared to off-season fruits. Patients do follow that for a few months. As far as reading a label is concerned, I think we are a long way from there. On ground, if I was to say, we are a long way from there. I think that education has to come in from the school level. That is where it starts. That's where habits start. That's where education happens.
No, why school? Why not parents again?
Parents again, yeah.
Who buys the food for the child? No, you are all here.
No, for a generation.
I tell you,
We are all doctors here. We advise about it. Can any one of you tell me how much calories are there in 200 ml of fruity, 200 ml of Coke, 150 grams of chips? Please, anyone volunteer.
No, it depends on रोटी किसने बनाई है, कैसे उसका
नहीं,
साइज
रोटी
क्या
की
है.
बात नहीं कर रहा सर. चिप्स, फ्रूटी, पेप्सी, 200 ग्राम की, एक पीस ऑफ चॉकलेट, कितनी कैलोरीज होती हैं? एक बिस्किट, एक ओरियो का बिस्किट, कितनी कैलोरीज हैं?
100 से कम नहीं होंगी मेरे ख्याल से. मेरा गैस है, पता
नहीं
नहीं।
ज्यादा बता रहे हो सर, आपने कहा कि सोचा कि शायद ज्यादा ही होंगी। एक रोटी में कितनी
मैं
होती है
खाता ही
सर?
नहीं ये कुछ, मेरे को पता ही
मैं
नहीं।
वन रोटी डिपेंडिंग अपॉन दी रोटी साइज। हाँ, गुजराती रोटी, पंजाबी रोटी, उसमें भी फर्क होएगा ना।
There is a lot of difference.
हाँ, so I always ask my parents to read the label. ठीक है? Most of the obesity is not because of the fats. They will ask you how to reduce the fats. They are never bothered about the carbohydrates. And even, I think we discussed last time all about your energy drinks.
Correct.
50% of the calories in those energy drinks are from the carbohydrates.
Absolutely.
All sugars.
No, my method is
150
very simple, Bhasin.
जी sir.
I tell people one thing, that please take your weight daily in the morning after going cleaning your balls. अगर आपका वेट ठीक है तो जो मर्जी खाना खा ले भैया, मेरा दिमाग ना खा। बट इफ योर वेट इज मोर देन यू कम टू मी, फिर आपको तो समझाऊंगा कि सी द थिंग इज दैट यू टेल देम द वेट, आपका आइडियल वेट जितना है। एक्चुअली आई टेल देम सिंपली हाइट इन सेंटीमीटर माइनस योर एज, ओके। और मैं कहता हूँ कि इफ़ योर हाइट इज़ 175 सेंटीमीटर तो मैक्सिमम वेट 75 चाहिए, लेकिन 2 किलो कम रखो, क्योंकि हमने बदतमीजी भी करनी है, बीच बीच में पार्टी भी करनी है। सो अल्टीमेटली आई थिंक इट इज़ वेट एंड to a lot of extent also weight. For example, your weight is okay, but the tummy is coming forward, that is also harmful. If you can control weight and weight, then you don't have to go so minutious. But if it is not, then I think you have to come to
I love that term, weight and pate.
And I'm going to remember that. I think labels, I just wanted to add another thing. See, we forget we are not an English speaking nation. We look at Delhi, we look at Bombay, we look at these metropolitan cities, and we're assuming that these labels that are there, everybody can read them. But let's look at the majority of people, their regional languages, Hindi speaking, nobody is going to understand these terms or whatever is there, right?
So, Dr. Sonia, this is a very, very interesting aspect that you were talking about. You know, we are talking about the ignorance of understanding the labels. We know that labels exist, they have the relevant information, but people are ignorant about the labels, of how to read them or what to make of it.
Right.
Do you think that the industry, because, you know, at the end of the day, processed food or whatever we are doing, everybody has a marketing department and everybody understands their target audience. Do you think that the labels are being used as a marketing gimmick to drive use, purchase, etc.?
1000%. What is this diet, murmura and bhujia and all? I mean, it's fried. I mean, roasted, whatever. When you look at the ingredients, it is not roasted like that. It is roasted in edible oil. It's written over there. Nobody understands it. So people eat chunk loads. Ye to diet hai. You know, you go to these markets and aajkal these soy katoris and all, and everybody's buying thousands of them. These are diet. So, of course, you look at all these oils. There are certain oil companies that are promoting it as heart healthy. But get into the crux of it, sunflower oil, as you said, but they are marketed as heart healthy. So what does an ignorant person do? They want to be healthy, they don't want to exercise, they want a quick solution, they're looking at healthy options they can choose, they will go for that. And it's human nature, right? They will want to do that. They'll say, you know what, let me choose this because this is healthy. So nowadays the new term is trans fat. I think a lot of people in the metropolitan cities are getting very aware of that. So they will say, oh, this is no trans fat, but they don't look at the other ingredients that are there. And I think that's where the challenge is. So definitely, I think everything is a marketing gimmick.
My point is, sorry I'm interfering.
No, please.
To my mind, education is not going to, this knowledge of labeling, knowledge kitna percentage है फलाना है ढिमका, is not going to change the people. And I give you example. If it was true, तो अमेरिका में change हो जाता, नहीं हुआ ना. The largest number of obese people in the world are in USA, and so-called educated nation. In America, if you talk to people cross section of the society, there are 10% who are very aware of everything, but then 85% they take junk, all junk. You know, the thing is, to my mind, we have to apply ultimately methodology which is easily understood by a common man. You go to villages, you go to these small towns, who know the trans fat, this all us marung mugs here. So to my mind, they only understand कि तेरा weight ठीक होना चाहिए भाई. और I tell them very simply, diet prescription मेरी क्या है. मैं कहता हूँ सब कुछ खाओ, पहली बात तो कोई मना नहीं है, except smoking, except unusual amount of liquor. आप सोशल ड्रिंकिंग कर सकते हो, प्रोवाइडेड यू डोंट हैव लिवर डिजीज एंड दिस एंड दैट. सब कुछ खाओ, आपको क्वालिटी कंट्रोल करना है. अवॉइड शुगर एंड रिफाइंड कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स एंड अवॉइड एज फार एज पॉसिबल फ्राइड मटेरियल. फ्राइड मत खाओ. घी की रोटी के साथ लगानी है तो लगाओ. सम अमाउंट ऑफ घी इज गुड. More importantly, apart from this food, you need to exercise daily. This is my prescription in very short time. ये मैं कहता हूँ. गांव का बंदा उसको नहीं समझ आए ट्रांस फैट कितना फलाना टिमका अमका. उसको बोलो कि तेरा वेट तक कट्टे की तरह तो हुआ है.
सर आपने जो बात करी है ना, यहाँ पे इंडियन पॉपुलेशन इज़ वेरी वेरी स्मार्ट. दे लाइक टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट दे वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड. मेरी बीवी ने मेरे से पूछा था. नहीं, मैं कह रहा हूँ सर, मेरी बीवी ने मेरे से पूछा था कि तू ड्रिंक करते हो नहीं करते. मैंने बोला था सोशली ड्रिंक करता हूँ. तो शादी के बाद उसने बोला कि आप तो रोज़ कर रहे हो. तो मैंने कहा यार रोज़ सोशल ओकेजन्स हो रहे हैं तो मैं क्या करूँ. ठीक है ना. सो
इंडियन सर सिस्टम में शुरू से बीमारी में हमेशा डाइट की बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंस रही है.
जी.
आयुष में पूछ लीजिए. वी एलोपैथी में वी वर मोर बॉदर्ड अबाउट डिजीजेस बिकॉज infectious diseases were prevalent so much. Now their number is going down as vaccination and hygiene is improving. Now you have more of non-communicable diseases, lifestyle disorders which are increasing. But diet has always been a very important. Patients have always been asking ki khana kya hai. There are always been a grandmother's remedies for everything.
करेक्ट.
So diet has always been very important and patients do ask for it. We do not have the time to tell them about this. And we ourselves were never taught in detail about this. We were always,
As doctors, we are not
all the system,
Absolutely.
all the exams are focused in diagnosing difficult cases and managing those cases. And all the modern technology is about treating your more difficult cases, more technologically difficult achievements, but basics about lifestyle, about what to eat, about how to have your daily routine, no one talks about it. And that has been the most important. And I think Ayush is very important in that aspect. You have a very major role to play here and you have been silent so long.
So
नहीं अभी.
there are two perspectives.
या प्लीज.
We have been talking about frying and deep frying, right? The other side of this is sweets. They have a lot of vegetable oils.
As you mentioned.
Trans fats, hydrogenated fats. Because when you add hydrogenated fat to the sweet, it is a bulking agent. It increases like dalda, vanaspati. One thing. Frozen dessert, ice creams. There are vegetable oils in that. But they don't advertise it as frozen dessert, but they'll show this is ice cream. Okay?
Yeah.
That's again a trans fat. Again, it is dangerous to health. Chocolates. If you look at the melting point of a chocolate, a cocoa butter, it is 16 degrees centigrade. So if it should go in a fridge, it should be in a refrigerator to just be stable and to be solid. The moment it comes out to a temperature of 20 degrees and 22 degrees, what happens? It melts. But you don't see that happening in India, right? Because in Europe, these chocolates are all made of pure milk. Okay, they have a melting point of 16 degrees, and you bring those to India, they'll melt immediately. Whereas in India, you add vegetable oils here to the chocolate here, to the cocoa butter. So there are trans fats inside that, and just to keep it stable at 22 degrees and 25 degrees centigrade also. So that's again a big problem. So this trans fats which we are talking about is there everywhere, not just in oils.
एब्सोल्युटली. आई मीन हमें लगता है कि घर में खाना बना रहे हैं तो उसमें ऑयल ट्रांस फैट है.
as a human
It is-
being, as a person, आम आदमी, फिर खाओ क्या? हर चीज ही बुरी है. मतलब कभी कभी actually you feel for the person. I mean, I'm a big believer of moderation as well, because end of the day, खाओ क्या? किसी को क्या बोलो कि आप सिर्फ सब्जी दाल खाओ और कुछ मत खाओ, वो तो that's not a practical perspective, right? मतलब that's what people also ask कि फिर खाएं क्या?
All your bakery products for stability, they have to have partially processed, partially hydrogenated to increase the consistency. Because most oils are liquid at room temperature.
Right.
And they are the cheaper ones. So how do you make these cakes and pastries and desserts and biscuits, and you have to have thing which are partially solidified. So that is how
So I
trans
think
fats is
instructions have to
increasing.
just say eat,
But
do not eat this, then
Gar-
rather than eat
No,
this.
no, no. You see, telling that also doesn't help. You have say warning on cigarettes, you have warnings on alcohol, tobacco. These things are addictive and they are tasty. Let us accept it.
Sir,
All these
लेकिन-
things which are not good for your health, they are very tasty and you love to have them. So that is a major problem. So discipline, right food habits again, right from childhood is very important.
But sir, Ritika ji, one of the things that comes to my mind is that when we are looking at the labels, taking a cue from what sir said कि cigarette के ऊपर label होता है, warning होती है, and people are addicted to it.
It had started, I think, when I was way back in 1995. There was a lot of talk about palm oil. In fact, I still remember in our college time, we were made to make ingredients using palm oil, using your new product development, which we used palm oil. It had come in a big way to India, but somehow it has had its own death.
Ritika,
And
it
we
is
don't
still
know.
very much here.
So,
Palm oil is in fact the most used by the food industry. It is whether you're buying margarine or you're buying mayonnaise or you're buying burgers or you're buying your tofu or whatever. Palm oil is everywhere. It is the cheapest oil. It is the cheapest oil. It is
Even if you are buying olive oil, it is
adulterated with palm oil, maybe. So we are not talking about adulterated, that is cheating. Okay. But palm oil is everywhere, whether it is your biscuits, whether it is your pastries, whether it is your ice cream.
So by default, it does not make it healthier just because you put that label. And whereas the companies are actually now using that particular label to increase the prices, saying that, we are using more expensive oil and it is healthier, etc.
We were talking about myths, right?
Yes,
When
sir.
You were asked Dr. Rao. One of the favorite myths I see, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is cholesterol-free oil, right? That's like this biggest thing, like cholesterol-free oil. But all vegetables oil are free of cholesterol. So that's a big, and they draw a nice big heart on it, cholesterol-free oil, but it is not always healthy. That oil may not be the healthiest oil. It may be full of other fats which are not healthy. So I think the marketing gimmick plays a very important role in the way an average consumer makes decisions of what to eat.
So we're manipulating the consumer's mind to start believing something and then responding to the market sentiment. I think the topic itself is how to break away the science from the sentiments.
Another,
Yeah.
thing I just wanted to add is olive oil.
Correct.
So everybody now hears about olive oil, the Mediterranean diet. See now, in India, when we cook, you actually can't heat olive oil at high temperatures. And right?
Olive oil, we are very clear because there are different types. We have the
Yeah.
pomace, which is not for consumption, which is freely available in India with one free, and it does not have any antioxidants. So if you're taking olive oil, never use pomace olive oil. You should be using only the other. So I'll be talking only of olive oil then. But otherwise, it's only the extra virgin oil because of the vitamin E content
Right.
and the antioxidants. But that should be used only for
But the-
sauteing and
yeah,
this thing. And then you have the extra light oil, which of course you can heat it for a certain degree. It still is better because the MUFA content is high. But the pomace oil which we are using has got no additional benefit. So if somebody is wanting to use a mustard oil, would be much better than using a normal pomace olive oil. But because the name olive
Exactly,
is connected with health and Mediterranean diet, so therefore anything which has olive, they'll pick it up. So
I think I just wanted to, because I think that's another misconception. Everybody thinks olive oil is the healthiest oil ever in this entire planet. Like that's how the concept comes across to people. So I think it's important.
Absolutely. I mean, there are restaurants now saying that, we use olive oil.
And the thing about palm oil is that if it is unprocessed, so I've heard that they retain their good contents like the antioxidants, which are basically mainly the carotenoids and the tocotrienols. So palm oil is in fact rich in that. The oil gets oxygenated or hydrogenated, as all other speakers have said. And the third is that we should now think about using cold pressed oils in our diet, and they retain certain benefits
Nutrients.
and don't use the processed thing which induces harmful chemicals.
Got
so
it.
this would be my view on that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Biswas. My next question is to two people who've been quiet for the last 5 minutes, Dr. Kler and Dr. Rao. Sir, Dr. Kler, since we're talking of palm oil and it just came up,
I tell you why. It has also 50-50. 50% saturated, 50% unsaturated. It's not costly. Coming to the olive oil. Olive oil is a new fad in the rich people in India because we didn't have olives before. Olive oil have also very varieties, like in general, olive oil is very good oil if you just put on the salad dressing. It's excellent. But if you want to make cooking, Indian cooking, it has no value at all. You spend money without any purpose. If you want to use olive oil for cooking, then you have to extra virgin, which is a little more stable. Otherwise, it's unstable and it will be more hydrogenated to my mind. So it is harmful actually the way Indians are using olive oil. So I tell them, no, you don't use olive oil except on the dressing. This is my prescription. If you want to have a cooking, other oils are equally good. So that's my take. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely right, sir. And about palm oil, yes, because of course over the 2-3 days we've also done a lot of studying. So it's interesting to know that the composition. So ideally, whether as a cardiologist or as a nutritionist, rather than talking ghee is better or talking about a particular oil being high, we have to see the nutritional compositions, because at the end of the day, we are all talking about science over here. So the nutritional composition becomes very important. So ideally, what the entire world is talking about is 1:1.5:1. So we are talking about 1%, one ratio of your saturated fat is to one of the other. So when you talk about palm oil, 50-50 works very well. Ideally, that should be the way. The only thing is that by the time it is actually getting processed and coming to us, wherein, of course, the carotenoids and the vitamin E, which is it is very, very rich in, and that's how, lot of research has been done in ICMR and all, especially for children, for night blindness and all, where capsules are being in, and palm oil is being readily used over there for the research purposes, but then they're using the crude one, where of course the content of the vitamin E as well as the beta carotenoids is retained. But by the time we get it in the bottled as a processed oil, that is absolutely zero. In fact, carotenoids are absolutely zero, and of course vitamin E, they say about 20-30%. But of course the composition in terms of the vitamin, the saturated to the monounsaturated, and still remains the same. So yes, I think if you're talking about the good type and the quality and how to use it in the cooking form, I think the cold compress oil and talking about palm oil as a cold compress oil is a wonderful idea, which would be something similar to mustard oil, though it will have a typical pungent smell and a little thickish in terms of consistency, so people have to get used to it.
It
But
will not
I'm
be
sure.
conducive to the
cooking.
taste. I mean, it should add to the flavor and taste. It won't do that. So if it's healthy, it won't be tasty.
So basically what you're saying is the palm oil is not bad. It's the palm oil, the way it has been processed. You have to be careful as to which palm oil you're buying.
See, that's what industry should be forced to write, how it is produced.
Correct.
And in bold letters.
Yes.
So the problem with the labeling is that the labeling is going to be very, very important in the future. I tell you why. Because whatever you say that the consumption of the food in this food industry is going like this, and it will go like this because all the mostly all the females will be working in the future. They don't have time to cook, so that we cannot run away from the reality of life. Now in America, for example,
Then we'll have to add into the cooking, sir. Sanu kam karna padna.
right? No, ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ हैं, or we have to be house husbands, if you have to do that. So like in the US, I think not more than 10-15% make food at home. They go to restaurant, they breakfast में line लगी होती है हर जगह. मतलब it looks crazy that they line लगी होती है लंबी लंबी, घर बनाते ही नहीं कुछ. So I think that is what is going to happen to us also in the long term because of the lifestyle and the way we are behaving. So I think there is going to be bigger and bigger role of the industry control of how the food is made, how the oils are produced, and the labeling in bold letters जो कि common आदमी समझेगा. हिंदी में चाहिए, for example, हिंदी में तो जरूर चाहिए, and then being sold in South India like Tamil Nadu, it should be in local language. Every place, local language should be prominently displayed. Okay, this is how this food is produced and these are the components. ये हो नहीं रहा इंडिया में अभी.
Sir, one question over here that so we've talked about palm oil being very healthy, and especially if you're using in the packaged food, it is of course better than as compared to probably using a soya bean oil because it will get oxidized and all. And of course it's cheaper also. So my question is that why did we then, because obviously it's cheap, it's more healthy when you're using in the processed form. We're not talking about cooking oil at home. So why this shift from palm oil to soybean oil or sunflower oil in the packaged food then? Then it should have
That
gone
was
all
my
out.
question that I had kept for you. But I would like to, I did a little bit of a research before coming in because I had to ask the right questions. One of the things that emerged was that, there has been a marketing exercise that has happened because there's at the end of the day, there are lobbies that are working for each of the producers community. So my guess is that it could be that which has affected the consumer's mindset and pattern. Sir, Dr. Rao, when we were talking in Mumbai, I remember you were quoting a lot of numbers, and which is what got me interested to have this conversation with you, because you've done a lot of research on various studies which have been related to palm oil, whether it was ICMR or various other publications that have been there. What is your understanding of the scientific publications that have been published?
Very good question. See, the problem here is all these publications have just gone to looking at what the consumers have consumed, which kind of oil. But how they cook this oil and how they use it in their food preparation, nobody has gone into that. A very important aspect of all this refined oil which you're talking about is all the packages should really have at what temperature they should be heated. Is it for sorting? Is it for shallow frying? Is it for deep frying? That category has to be made clearly, and that is a very, very important aspect for labeling in oils. Because once that is coming to the label, then people know exactly, I have olive oil, I can't deep fry it, right? So they should know where they can use it. So that is very important. People don't know how to use the oil, where to use it.
Dr. Sonia Lal, let me come to you, because we've been talking about vitamin A, vitamin E, and we're talking of brain cells getting activated. What is your view as a neurologist in terms of the benefits of oils, palm oil or any other oil, for from neurological point of view?
So I think, as Dr. Bhasin said, I think so fat is a very important component of our brain, and fat is needed for our neurons to develop. So there's a misconception about that. And when it comes to all these fatty soluble vitamins like vitamin A or E, they're very, very important. Deficiency of vitamin A, we know, causes night blindness. Deficiency of vitamin E causes a truckload of symptoms, cognitive decline and whatnot. The funny part is that we all are ready to take supplements from outside, again, as marketing as it is, but we don't look at our own diets to actually use the diet in the right way to eat that food, right? And I think that's where the challenge is. So when it comes to even omega-3, so important, DHA, EPA, we know how important it is. I mean, when I was pregnant, I was taking these omega, these pills which have DHA and EPA, because it's written brain health, and that's all you're reading as a consumer. Even if as doctors we know everything, end of the day we are also consumers, and we also get affected by all these gimmicks and everything that happen. But the point here is this is all extremely important. And as everybody's aging, now we know the elderly population is increasing, and it's only going to continue to increase. The biggest fear people have is memory issues. The biggest fear people have is dementia, and every third person coming in nowadays wants to know कि मुझे dementia होगा कि नहीं, मुझे memory issues हो रहे हैं, I'm forgetting a little bit. So I think that's where again it comes down to diet is very important. Fat is an important component. You cannot remove it from your diet. You just have to know how to have the right fat in the right quantity. And I think what Dr. Rao said, it's extremely important if oils can start putting in on their labels for shallow frying, for deep frying, for putting on salads. I think everything will change. I think people will read and people will want to listen, because people want to know.
Can you please explain to me what is shallow frying, what is deep frying? I am an educated man. I don't know what is, because मेरे को पता कढ़ाई पे चल रहा है. It's a real.
So in the kadai it is more deep frying. In the pan you're doing a little bit more shallow.
पड़ेगा कि shallow क्या deep क्या यार.
Shallow में
पकोड़े हो गए सर, पकोड़े हो गए deep frying, तो चिल्ला हो गया shallow frying. चिल्ला जिहड़ा तवे ते बना.
Little bit dosa and shallow.
when you do this small shallow frying,
So,
समोसे
पता लोगों को कैसे पता होगा?
नहीं, I know.
You know,
समोसे
the point
बनाने
that
के लिए
is the
लिखा
point
होना
that is
चाहिए,
making
समोसे
is that
पकौड़े
people,
should not come, sir.
the people who are coming in, people who come from non-urban areas, उनको ये terms समझ नहीं आती. You know, तो उनको
Again, you know,
So,
impractical.
if I just want, before this we end, I had a question for Dr. Rao, because you've done a lot of research. So I just wanted to know, when we talk about palm oil, the refined palm oil, which is available like even in Tamil Nadu and all people are taking, what is the percentage of vitamin E in that? And we know vitamin E gets oxidized very fast. So even if you're heating it and all. So when you get the palm oil, though it is a more stable oil, if you're using it for cooking, normal khana bana rahe hain, would the vitamin E further get completely destroyed, or there is a...
They have shown that when you do deep frying, the
Yeah.
vitamin E level, it will come down by almost 60%.
Vitamin this thing, no?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah. So that's so it's not much for. So even if the label of my palm oil says that the vitamin E content is so much, if I am using it for my normal cooking, I'm probably just getting 50% of what is there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what.
So, you know, this is very interesting point that you brought up, because there are these areas where there's an affordability issue, there's a purchasing power challenge that is there, and there are not just India. I mean, you know, we've seen it in Africa and all. So do you think, I mean, whoever wants to answer this, do you think that instead of saying that, you know, ye oil theek hai ya wo nahi hai, as we are agreeing that, you know, the fat is an important ingredient for the growth of any human body, do you think this is actually solving the access of edible oils to ensure at least the basic nutritional value in the underserved areas within our country? I mean, you know, the affordability, what we see in places like Delhi, Mumbai, or even in the tier 2 is very different from interiors of our country. So do you think, you know, it is important for us to not spread the wrong message कि वो use नहीं कर सकते तो उनके लिए unaffordable है तो वो inaccessible हो गया?
No, something like sunflower oil, cardiac friendly and all, that going to the 2-tier or the 3-tier cities, ideally if a palm oil goes, I think that's much more healthier, because at least it will give them the basic requirements and they can use it. And specifically if it is I would say culture, according to the culture and all, especially in the south, people have it a lot, so they can have it. So that way, so a simple example is sattu, so now it's become those so-called superfood, right? So sattu is something, like in Bihar and the, eastern part and all, that was a normal, very basic thing which people used to have it. But because people talked so much about it that now it's so-called a superfood. And now, people are adding it in, even in Delhi and all, they have sattu and they feel they're very, but that's a basic thing.
See, when we talk about saturated fats, actually nobody knows practically. I think most of the people are not aware of one thing, that it depends that what is the composition of short chain, medium chain and long chain. So every saturated fat should be labeled. For example, short chain and medium chain, they don't increase cholesterol. It is a long chain only. So you have to work on those lines to define the healthiness of a saturated fat. That is very, very important.
Dr. Samir, apart from what you're commenting, I'm asking you another question, because this is something that you brought up and I want to get your opinion on it. That if we are talking about palm oil that doesn't easily get oxidized during high heat cooking, could that make it safer choice for Indian style cooking?
Yeah, for deep frying, yes.
Yeah, I think that would be that would be something that would be useful, and
Would it be a
something-
preferred oil?
I think it certainly could be if.
Just to add up to this.
Yes.
See,
It is already
See,
being
but
used as the deep frying agent in most of your cookeries or roadside
Sir,
dhabas.
just- But it
That
is
is what it is used
irrespective
as.
of
There
what
is
oil
a
is
history to
from
this. There is a history to this.
But
You
we
said,
cannot-
you asked me a question on where does this palm oil fit in,
Yes.
right?
Quantity of the oil has to be limited. We are talking about all these oils, but these oils that should be consumed on a daily basis.
That's what I told initially, that
Yeah.
24 kilograms each Indian is consuming. It should be actually 6 kilograms per year, maximum 12 kilograms according to ICMR.
Correct.
So, उसमें तो we are taking 3 times more than we
So on a
should.
day-to-day basis, that's hardly anything per person.
Just one question to Ritika. When we talk about edible oils, to my knowledge, we use edible oil. या तो हम इनिशियली कुछ सब्जी बनानी है, जैसे वो प्याज गर्म करते हैं या उसको करते हैं, ठीक है, दूसरा ये है कि हमने दाल बना ली, उसको तड़का लगानी है, ठीक है जी। तीसरा है कि हम फ्राइंग करते हैं, जैसे पूरी बनानी है या फिश फ्राई करनी है, यू नो वेरी रियरली पीपल डू चिकन आल्सो, लाइक कंटकी फ्राइड चिकन इज फ्राइड चिकन। फोर्थ इज़ कि हम सैलड पे डालते हैं, विच इज़ नॉट इंडियन ट्रेडिशन, वो तो वेस्टर्न से आया है। एंड फिफ्थ इज इंडियन ट्रेडिशन है कि या तो रोटी पे लगानी है या मखनी उसमें दाल में डालनी है, ठीक है। तो ये जो मतलब के इनिशियली मसाला बनाते हैं हम या तड़का लगाते हैं, ये डीप फ्राइंग है या शैलो है, ये क्या है?
सर वो जब जलना शुरू हो जाता है, धुआं निकल जाता है, दैट इज द टाइम व्हेन इट इज कॉजिंग द
थोड़ा
स्मोकिंग
धुआं तो
पॉइंट।
निकलता है यार, मैं
सर
बनाता
धुआं
हूँ।
वही है, तो वही धुआं नहीं निकलना है।
सॉटे करना है सर, सॉटे
आई
करना
डू
है।
समटाइम कुकिंग।
नहीं, तो वो धुआं नहीं निकलना चाहिए। द मोमेंट द धुआं निकल रहा है, इसका मतलब
Saute
वो
करना है,
उसका
sir.
ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होना शुरू हो गया है। सो दीज आर द सिंपल थिंग्स व्हिच वी टेल द कॉमन पीपल, यू नो, कि जब आप सिंपल थिंग, अगर आप तेल को बाहर रखते हैं, ऑल ऑफ अस कीप इट नेक्स्ट टू आवर अवन which is heated at such a high temperature. अगर आप तेल का बॉटल अगर आप अभी आप रूम में भी रखोगे, it is reaching 45 degree temperature, right? You should always keep your oil in, not in a glass see through. It should be, because it gets oxidized by the sunlight. So oil should be always kept in a dark bottle. It should be kept inside a cupboard always. मसाला cupboard के अंदर होता है, तेल हमेशा गैस के ओवन के पास होता है. So these are simple things. Even if you do this much, you can prevent the oxidation
That's
to
a
a great
beautiful
extent.
point that you
That's
brought. I mean,
that's a great.
it doesn't even come to your
मतलब it should
mind that
never
you know तेल
kept
कहाँ रखना
next to
है.
the you know your oven, क्योंकि
So
वहाँ
Ritika,
बहुत
sorry, I'm
हाँ जी सर.
I want to learn more than teach anybody. Professor Ritika. Now my question is that for deep frying, desi ghee or coconut or mustard oil should be used. Am I right or wrong? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sir, Dr. Bhasin, you know, post this discussion, what is your understanding, or has it changed, that many packaged foods, baby foods, and infant formulae contain palm oil? As a pediatrician, what would be your view on this as an inclusion for their diet?
You see, as far as children are concerned, irrespective of this discussion, I don't recommend any processed food. Fresh and freshly cooked food is the best which you can offer a child. Anything which is processed loses some of the goodness. At times, harmful ingredients creep in. So, always fresh food, freshly prepared, is the best thing. And food should be diverse. Fat is essential for energy, and as we have discussed, we cannot recommend one particular type of fat. It has to be a balance between different fats. You have to recommend a blend of fats, both the saturated as well as the unsaturated will be your PUFA and MUFA. Polyunsaturated is again important, omega-3 and omega-6 for brain development, during pregnancy, even during old age, for memory, as she mentioned, to prevent Alzheimer's. So there also it is important for your joints. So oils all are important, a proper blend, but not to exceed a particular limit. They should not exceed, say, preferably 20 to 30% of your total caloric intake. That is recommended. And of this, almost 10% is invisible fat, which is present in all your cereals, in your legumes, which you don't calculate at all. You are talking, if it comes to the visible fat, it has to be less than 20% of your calculated diet.
I started the conversation by asking a question related to oils and the relevance of oils in your specific core areas of expertise. I'm going to end with asking a question which is for all of you. That what is your key takeaway or advice for Indian families on trying to balance taste, tradition, and health when it comes to oils? And what is your opinion of palm oil? Because we suddenly started talking about palm oil quite extensively. Post this discussion, I mean, what is it that you think about palm oil? And again, Dr. Kler, I'm going to take you as 9 down, right? We'll start with you.
A lot of fat is already present in the food that we consume. It's the invisible fat. It may be there in the dal, in the aloo, in the other sabzis that you have on a daily basis. As far as those visible fats is concerned, yes, there are multiple different options of oils. Whatever oil we choose, irrespective of the type of oil we choose, it has to be in a very limited quantity because it should form a very small percentage of your actual diet. Our diet cannot revolve around that oil. Normally it should not be that, the ghee is the most important thing for me. No, it should form a part of our diet. It should not be the center of our diet. And regarding the palm oil, I think palm oil, it's a very interesting oil. I did not know too much about it prior to this, and I think we'll have to wait for a lot more. At least I would personally want to review a lot more of the literature before I can give further recommendations about it. But the trans fats are a definite no. Saturated fats in limited quantity, for sure, and MUFAs, the monounsaturated fatty acids, are definitely which are to be prioritized.
See, as I mentioned previously, I would not like to exceed the recommended calorie content as far as fat is concerned. Cultural influences are very important because a diet greatly depends upon which culture you belong to, which part of the country you belong to. The cooking is individualized in different parts. And there is absolutely no harm in the south. They are continuing to use coconut oil, is excellent. In the north, we use more of dairy origin fat, like ghee and butter, which is again good. As far as palm oil goes, it is omnipresent. You just cannot get away with it. The way it is present in the processed food is definitely a big no-no. As far as using for cooking, it can be one of the options. It is always better to blend all the oils. Keep on changing. Today you use mustard, next month you buy soya bean, the month after that you buy palm oil. You keep on rotating. You don't stick to one oil. And ghee and butter you can use in moderation, but the total calorie content and has to be kept in mind. If you're gaining weight, cut down on the carbohydrates and the fat both. And add, as far as children are concerned, fresh fruits and vegetables.
Got it.
And if you are a vegetarian and you're short on, say, omega PUFA, and then you have to add nuts, which we cannot give to children less than 3 years. So you grind them and add to their as a powder form in their diet.
Got it. Ma'am.
So I think the takeaways we all know, trans fats are bad for you. There is no excuse about that. When it comes to saturated fat, the long chain ones are bad, but the short chain and medium chain are not that bad for you. So that is something to keep in mind because that does not increase your cholesterol. I think one takeaway for me, which was very important, is don't just read the label for the calories, also read the ingredients, which a lot of people don't do. So I would, I think that people, whoever is listening, should read their ingredients. Palm oil, I think if used in the right way at home, in the right quantity, is not a bad option. But again, too much of anything is bad. So I think we have to understand oil is an important part and everybody said that. But in limited quantities, what I've also taken away is, I think if possible, try to have maybe 2-3 types of oil at home for different purposes, use different oil. That would be the ideal situation. And another thing is, I hope eventually doctors are also taught nutrition. I think there is a big lapse. As you rightly said, patients ask us and not all the doctors send patients away to nutritionists right away. And I think diet is such an important part of our culture. Every state had its own meal. So it's important to, give the right advice when it comes to us. So I think that's my takeaway. But I would also tell people, please ask as many questions as possible to doctors because it will at least force them to go and read and answer the questions in the right way.
Just sum it up as good, bad, ugly. The good one, use the fresh oil, small quantities. When you go to a restaurant, order a sabzi, it is immersed in oil. You don't need that much oil at all. So the amount of quantity of oil used should be very less, in moderation, just to bring the taste. That's very important. And that should be a norm for restaurants also on healthy cooking. And if that can come up, it would be very good for legislation. Second thing is, bad one is all the confectionaries, bakery items, desserts, chocolates. People should be made aware that what they're eating is not right. They don't know what it is there in the bread. As when I was talking about brown bread, people have seen, look for brown bread only, thinking that it has got fiber. Okay, and they pay more for it. They don't know that it's also junk. Okay, it's just that color is changed, that's it. Okay, so that's very important. So understanding what is bad is important. Ugly, the street foods, especially these people, the roadside eateries, they buy oil from the hotels, used oil from the hotels and reheat it, which is really bad for the consumer. So that awareness has to come to the consumer as well as to the hoteliers that they should not sell this oil.
I think people here have already covered all the points. So yeah, so my take would be to stick to your culture, because you cannot force. Like, I am a Bengali, so I cannot take coconut oil. It's not in my genes. So, but I can eat mustard oil. So understand what is healthy and what is your culturally viable to you, and stick to that oil. Blend it. Some oils which we can, like, we can use some other oils like coconut or groundnut, if we can develop the taste, or even palm oil for that sake. And I agree to Dr. Rao that we should avoid deep frying and street food, junk food and processed food. That would be my take. And thank you for
You're not fearful of palm oil anymore.
No, not at all.
Dr. Claire, I mean, the last word.
Well, basically, I think a lot of things have been said already, and certainly I have learned in this session. I had a lot of deficiency in the knowledge, and see, to my mind, there's no doubt that diet, what we eat, is very, very important part of our life. Similarly, dietary prescription, dietary understanding of the patient and the family, I will say patient and the family, is very important. Uh, we in so-called our allopathic system of medicine, we are not giving stress to diet as we should have given. Maybe many reasons. Doctors themselves don't know. They don't have time. They don't have attitude. Uh, and I think those are the things which are very important. Actually, when we talk about heart failure, it's a very common disease in the world. So what has been seen that hospital where there is a heart failure program, heart failure team, their outcomes are better. It's similarly for hospital who have good dietitian, good nutritionist advice. I think those patients' outcome, long-term quality and quantity of life will be better. Ideal to my mind is homegrown food and home cooked food. Ideal कि पैदा भी खुद ही करो और खाओ भी. जहाँ तक हो सके डोंट ईट आउटसाइड. दिस इज माय रिकमेंडेशन टू एवरी पर्सन कि अवॉइड करो. अगर किसी मेरा विजिटिंग का काम है, मैं तो बाहर रहता हूँ, so I said you have choices. You don't have to jump on जिसमें oil लटक रहा है. You can go to take more salad. You can take fish or you can take roasted chicken or whatever. So you have to make these choices. But most importantly, to my mind, is that our society, our nation has a tremendous lack of knowledge on food, which is a basic thing to live. So somehow we need to have education on food, dietary habits. As a society, we should start in the schools, teach children what to eat and what not to eat, what are healthy food, which is there's no curriculum in our schools. So I think diet, education, nutrition, education is very, very important. But when I say home mood feed, is a good idea. It's very nice, but slowly and slowly, which I have already told, that society is turning that we have to depend upon market food, where proper checks by the government and the qualified people, the doctors and the nutrition specialists have to be in line, so that that food delivered by the industry is healthy, not unhealthy, and proper labeling should be there. So if I have to recommend one thing, I think we need a more qualified dietitian in this country and more paid. They are less paid, by the way, as compared to doctors. Yeah, no, they are paid. They are paid peanuts. So till we do that, I think we will not be able to do much for the society. So this is my final thing. Yeah. In the end, before I give mic to Harvinder, is that I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Ritika particularly, a lot of information, and Harvinder, you took up this topic. More than teaching, I've learned more here.
No, I think, what you were talking about sugar boards, I think it is important that every school in their canteen creates kind of a education on the ingredients or everything that is being sold in that canteen. I think that is where the learning begins, so that at least people are aware that this is something that they should start thinking about. But while I was just summarize, taking notes while everybody was talking so that I can summarize. In the meantime, Anupama, please go and tell the hotel guys that वो खाने में तेल तैरना नहीं चाहिए because वो तेल ऊपर से निकाल दें.
Can I just add one
Yes, ma'am.
point? You know, recently I was talking to a very famous chef and she told me two things which really stuck to me. She said the biggest mistake people do is they say they go up to a restaurant, they want New Zealand lamb chops. She said, New Zealand ki lamb chops, think about it, वो इतनी frozen है, they're so frozen, they're coming from God knows how long, how can it be healthy? And then you want to eat that kind of food. She said the most biggest mistake people are making, they're not eating local food, they're not eating seasonal food. She said when I go to Goa and I grow my own food over there, my milk comes directly. She said my stomach is amazing. She said when I'm traveling, when you're eating all this, I think we don't realize when we order in restaurants also, try to order more locally, I think, present food. Like you can eat the dal makhni, but try to, eat more locally than to order these unique dishes, which
Correct.
God knows how frozen it is and what nutritional content
I
it
think
has.
there have been.
I think we
Yes,
missed
sir.
one more point. I think.
Yes, sir.
It is about fortification of oils. There's a big thing, gimmick going on, adding vitamin D, fortification of oils. They are adding vitamin D3 to oils and saying the vitamin D3 fortified oil.
So some of the things that I took away, from listening to all of you was that one, oil per se is not bad. In fact, it has to be an integral. It's not just that it is, but it should be an integral part of our healthy diet. Second is, calories come from fat, and calories, not all calories is bad. Third is, zero fat does not actually reduce weight. You spoke about it. Zero fat does not reduce weight. In fact, on the contrary, it increases weight. I mean, this is something for women that they might need to understand. But nobody is talking about salt that is there in our food. The salt, हम नींबू पानी में भी salt वाला लेते हैं. And बहुत बारी रात को खाने के time पे when we go out, we feel it is healthy to add, the 3 whites. Absolutely. And then we had another very beautiful point that came out when we were talking, when Dr. Bhasin and Dr. Samir brought out, that it is not just the patient or the child that we are talking about. It is the people who are providing food to them who need to be educated. They need to understand what can be consumed, what quantity is okay to consume, rather than just talking about plainly that, आप ध्यान रखा करो, आप खुद ही नहीं रख रहे तो आपके घर वालों का क्या रखेंगे. And in fact, I remember some dietitians talking about or recommending that remove the food that is not good for your patient from your kitchen. If it is not there, then it is not getting consumed. Then is when we are talking about education, I think the last point that came up was, or the second last, sir, is that even the doctors need to be educated on, there's not enough sufficient conversations happening with doctors on these topics, a topic of nutrition. And if the doctors are regularly being a part of this conversation, they are the ones who people are taking advice from. And something that comes to my mind in my experience of whenever I've been to a hospital with someone as a caregiver, is that at the end of the day, when we are discharging the patient, there is a series of things that are, medication kya leni hai, post-discharge care that is there. Nutrition and diet is a part of that. And usually it is brought in and 2 minute में कोई बोल देता है कि ये चीज़ ले लेना and आपको समझ आ गया, tick mark हो गया and everybody is gone. Nobody is understood, nobody is explained to them. I think that is where the time needs to be spent and it has to be insisted by the person who's sharing the information to spend that time. So this is what I learned. And last thing, sir, एक training आपकी culinary skills के ऊपर. But that was on the lighter side. I always, take the liberty to joke with Dr. Kler, and I'm blessed that I share that relationship with him. And with that, I want to thank all of you for taking our time to be with us on this sensitive topic and sharing your insights, your understanding, and without even feeling bad about saying that, listen, I don't understand this, can you explain this? That was a very beautiful thing, and that is what the beauty of having these closed door conversations are, sir.
So before we close, thank you very much. I just want to also pinpoint these are my own ideas. So I feel that the vegetarian plant-based diet is better, less inflammatory, but there is no evidence in the medical science that being vegetarian is better than being non-vegetarian. In fact, white meat like chicken, like fish is very healthy, and the amount of protein you get from the chest of the chicken is 23 gram per 100 gram. Fish is around 20 gram. Milk is a very poor source of protein. For vegetarians, you have to have tofu or, ultimately lentils. Depend upon that. Vegetarians, they do suffer from protein deficiency plus B12 deficiencies. So I think if you can add healthy lean meat, it's absolutely correct. Of course, red meat has been found to be more unhealthy, particularly increases cholesterol. So red meat should be avoided as far as possible. But I tell people there's no need to make it zero. Basically, most of us, we don't take that much red meat anyway. So Indian food, by and large, is healthy as compared to the Western civilization. But we need to make it more healthy. So that's my point.
Fantastic. And before we
And
close
I don't agree that milk is bad, because there are in between there was a time say milk is also bad. No, don't touch milk. If milk was bad, the nature will not give milk to the child when he is born. Milk cannot be bad. The question is quantity. So I do drink milk. I love milk, but in a limited amount.
And I also want to thank Anupama. Anupama, you've been the one who's been reaching out to all the doctors, coordinating. I know she's been hard in, she's been pestering you, multiple calls, WhatsApps. So please bear with us. It is important for us to ensure, because it's very difficult for all of you to be here at the same time, on a particular day. I know Dr. Bhasin was unwell. He still took out time. Dr. Sonia mentioned her challenge at home in terms of her baby, but still she could make it. Dr. Rao was in a ministry meeting and we pulled him off from there. So, there's an effort that everybody has made. So really thank you everyone for being here. Anupama, thank you for making it happen. Arya, who's our, where are you, Arya? Yeah, Arya's our journalist and she's been covering the event. The videographers, Ratnesh, and behind the scenes, Prashant. You're actually behind the screen right now. Thank you for, making this happen for all of us. Thank you so much, everyone.